I shared a story with you 2 years ago about a very wealthy doctor who got wiped out because his teenager had a terrible accident. It was the teenager's fault. And this very successful doctor had state liability minimums. This accident occurred in the state of Florida where the doctor lived. And the doctor who'd built up wealth over a lifetime was completely wiped out because it blew past, obviously, the state liability minimums, which are a joke. And the doctor ultimately being sued and losing because of the accident that was the daughter's fault, all the assets got wiped out. The doctor has to start all over rebuilding financial security. What would it have cost the doctor to prevent this? Not very much money. Although we've had many complaints from people about, obviously, the big run-up in auto insurance premiums, particularly for the liability side of auto insurance. And then on top of it, so many people who have umbrella insurance policies, people who I call umbrella insurance a success tax. If you have developed meaningful assets in your life, you have what are called uncovered assets. You have a home with a lot of equity, or you're one of the roughly 30% of people who own your home free and clear. You have money in investments. You have money in retirement accounts. All that could be at risk from an insurance claim. So right now, there's been this movement by people who own their houses free and clear. They're saying, I'm not going to insure it anymore. Look how much the homeowner's insurance is. And they just self-insure. And then having on auto insurance, having state liability minimums because it gets you a lower premium because the premiums were going up and you're like, I hate paying these higher premiums, so I'm going to go to minimums. You know who's okay with minimums? Somebody who doesn't have money in investments. You're a renter, not an owner. You are what's referred to in the legal trade as essentially judgment proof. You got nothing that if there was an accident you were held liable for, you got nothing people can get. Somebody gets hurt at your property. If you're renting, it's not your property, it's the landlord's property. On the other hand, if you own a house, somebody gets hurt at your house, then you can get sued for an enormous amount of money. Somebody gets hurt in an accident that you're found to be at fault at, or even partially at fault at, you can end up owing a lot of money. So resist this temptation that's so in right now to reduce or eliminate insurance coverage in your life. Because the problem is what you're exposing yourself to if you've created meaningful assets in your life. Umbrella policies are, as I've heard complaints from people, more expensive than they used to be. But for what you get, it's essentially dirt cheap. So might typically have, I used to say, if you had an umbrella policy, which the base policy is $1 million of additional liability coverage on top of your auto and homeowners coverage. And I used to say it would cost you $200, $250. Today, in a lot of states, a lot of insurers, maybe more like $350. $350 a year to protect $1 million in assets you have. It's not very much money. And if you have a lot of money, each additional million is cheaper than the one before to protect with an umbrella policy. I am a big believer in these, and I don't want you, if you have, this is why I call it a success tax. If you have managed to have a lot of financial success in your life and you're living on less than what you make, so you have net, really wonderful assets, you also need a wonderful level of umbrella insurance. And if you own things like you own a lot of equity in your home or something like that, and you're driving around with state liability minimums on your auto insurance, don't do it. Don't do it. You're playing roulette. The other day, I was in traffic at a red light, and I grew up in the South. We don't call them traffic signals. We call them red lights because they always seem to be red. Anyway, light turns green. Lane on either side of me starts moving. And it's weird about what happens is you think, okay, it's time to go. Well, the person in front of me must have been looking at their phone or something. And I almost ran into the back of them. The car set off those alarms. And I stopped, I don't know, like a fraction of an inch from hitting them. And you think about all the days you're just driving around and you think nothing's going to happen to me today, and then bam, it does. And I could have very easily been in an accident then. And then there's the exposure to liability, where somebody even at 5 miles an hour says, oh man, I have all these soft tissue injuries. I can't believe what happened to my neck. I saw that commercial for this lawyer. I'm calling him. You got to have the protection because you never know what's going to happen.